Thank you for your service to the Muskogee Planning Commissioning Board. Here are a few things you need to know to be a successful board member. The Oklahoma Open Meeting Act is intended to encourage and facilitate a citizen's knowledge of government. Or in other words, it's just to let people know what's going on. The act also helps citizens understand governmental processes and problems, while also making meetings convenient and open to the public. Rules of open meetings include ensuring that all meetings of a majority public body where business is discussed are required to be open to the public. Discussing items solely on the agenda. Remember, if it's not on the agenda, it cannot be discussed. The discussion must be limited to particular agenda items, so be careful about deviating topics. For example, if the agenda is about revising park rules, you can't talk about which parks need to be mowed. The agenda must also be written in plain language and must indicate the topic to be discussed and the potential action to be taken. The vote of each member must be publicly cast. Roll call voting is not required, but it does ensure each member has cast his or her vote. Minutes are required to be taken, and violations are a misdemeanor plus civil liability. There are 4 types of meetings. Number 1. Regular. These require notice of meetings to be filed with the city clerk by December 15. They must be posted on the city website, and notice and agenda must be posted 24 hours before the meeting as well. If the location, date, or time changes, 10 days of notice must be given. Number 2. Special. 48 hours of advance notice must come before the meeting, and it must include the time, place, and location. This notice can come on the weekend. The agenda must be posted 24 hours in advance, but for this case, they cannot come on the weekend. Agenda items of new business are not permitted on special meeting agendas. Number 3. Emergency. These require as much notice as possible and involve a situation involving injury or damage to a person or property or immediate financial loss. Lastly, number 4. Reconvened. These require notice to be stated at the time of recess. This meeting is typically used for finishing up business or taking a break. The agenda cannot change between the time of recess and reconvening. Executive sessions are an approved exception to the general rule that a meeting must be open to the public. It is only allowed in certain circumstances, and there are 7 which are applicable to cities and 3 for municipal boards. These matters include discussing the purchase or appraisal of a real property, confidential communication between a public body and its attorney, or the purpose of conferring on matters pertaining to economic development. Motions cannot be made in executive sessions. According to the city charter, no board or commission may expend city funds, enter contracts, leases, or other agreements involving public property without the approval of the council by resolution or ordinance. The charter also states that council appointments to all boards, commissions, and trusts will, with the exception of the Merit System Board and Civil Service Commission, be for the initial term provided in the charter or by ordinance. An appointee will not be eligible for reappointment until 1 year shall have elapsed. This only applies to a full term. So, for example, a person filing in an unexpired term can be reappointed to serve a full term. Where does the power to zone property come from? Well, it comes from the city charter, which says that the city of Muskogee shall have power to promote the public health, safety, and general welfare by regulating the use of property and controlling and directing the development of the city through the exercises of the complete powers of planning and zoning within the city limits to the full extent permissible under the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Oklahoma. The exercise of the powers of planning and zoning within the city shall always be in pursuance of this grant of authority and not under state law, except with respect to those matters of general state concern as to which state law is controlling. The Planning and Zoning Commissioning shall prepare plans for the betterment of the city as a place of residence or for business, review and make recommendations to the City Council on amendments to the zoning ordinance, and review and make recommendations to the City Council and act on such matters as provided by subdivision regulations. Challenges to serving on the Planning Commission include not everyone being in favor of changing the zoning of a parcel of property. Many times, adjoining homeowners may object based on concerns that a potential rezoning would negatively impact their own property. In those cases, it is the duty of the Planning Commission to hear from those who are in favor of a zoning change and from those who are opposed. From that information, and considering the physical characteristics of the property and other factors, the Planning Commission will make a recommendation to rezone or not to rezone. Zoning is a legislative decision that normally will not be disturbed by the courts. However, there are legal pitfalls that need to be avoided, such as engaging in spot zoning, zoning decisions which are arbitrary, capricious, and unreasonable. If a zoning decision is challenged in court, the court will apply the fairly debatable rule. You may have heard the property should be used for its highest and best use. That's a term relating to the valuation of property, not zoning. The validity of zoning ordinance is not determined by the highest and best use concept. Recently, Ordinance 4154-A was enacted allowing for specific use permits to be issued for certain uses which the City Council has determined to have a more significant impact than others. Regardless of zoning, specific use permits are required for 1. Prisons/jails, 2. Mining, 3. Adult entertainment, 4. Landfills, 5. Public facilities, 6. Windmills, 7. Halfway houses, 8. Marijuana businesses and commercial uses, 9. Crematories. In SUPs, the Planning Commission's role is to assure the specific use is in compliance with the intent of the ordinance and the comprehensive plan. The Planning Commission should impose developmental standards, operational conditions, and safeguards to ensure the welfare and protection of adjacent property, the community, and be compatible with the natural environment and capacities of public services and facilities that may be impacted. This includes, but is not limited to, bonds, insurance, lot size, setbacks, height limits, buffers, required facilities, lighting, noise levels, signage, landscaping, and parking. In exercising its role, the Planning Commission may require pre-application conferences with the applicant, preliminary site plans, and data concerning operation, location, function, and characteristics of any use of land or building. The Commission may require engineering and/or environmental impact studies or other information that may be required. If the Planning Commission approves the SUP, it goes on the City Council consent agenda for final approval. If it's denied, the applicant may appeal to the City Council. It is a responsibility of the planning staff to make a recommendation on items on the agenda. Recommendation will be solely based upon City of Muskogee Municipal Code and the City of Muskogee Comprehensive Plan, as well as any applicable state law. Staff can answer questions as they pertain to the municipal code and will convey any public comments from the general public. It is the staff's responsibility to offer an unbiased interpretation of all zoning, specific use, and special exception requests. Staff may discuss how applications comply or deviate from the comprehensive plan and/or the municipal code. Staff may not give council members their personal opinion or subject review of applications. Board members may ask staff questions regarding code or comprehensive plan interpretations only, not for their personal opinion. For example, an acceptable question is, how does the submitted application comply with the underlying zoning district? A not acceptable question is, do you believe that this application would be a benefit to the city?
The board may contact staff for clarification prior to a meeting. Ideally, board members should email correspondence to clarify portions of staff reports prior to a meeting. If a request is received verbally, a follow-up email should be shared with all board members.
In accordance to the City of Muskogee's Code of Ethics, board members are charged with complying both the letter and spirit of the laws and policies affecting the operations of government, being independent, impartial, and fair in their judgment and actions, not using their position for personal gain, and conducting deliberations and processes openly in an atmosphere of respect and civility.
The conduct of board members should be above reproach and avoid the appearance of impropriety. Abusive conduct, verbal attacks on character, and motives should be avoided. Board members should be prepared, listen courteously and attentively to discussions, and focus on the business at hand. Comments which are not germane to the discussion should be avoided. Board members should also not use public resources not available to the general public for private gain or personal purposes. Board members should be mindful of their resources as stewards of public money and should not present a position nor advocate in the interest of private entity. If you are aware of unethical conduct, state it, or if it requires investigation, notify the city attorney. Article 10, Section 11 of the Oklahoma Constitution prohibits benefiting, either directly or indirectly, from the use of public funds. After being elected by a majority of the members, the duties of the chair include keeping the meetings orderly, following the meeting rules by allowing members to speak, managing time and procedures, and overall helping the board meet their goals. Remember, the chairperson only has the authority expressively granted by ordinance or by specific acts of the board. Further chair duties include collaborating with staff liaisons and working with staff to create purposeful agendas, leading effective meetings, and engaging board members to discuss and deliberate agenda items. The chair should also control dominating or unproductive behavior during meetings. Thank you again for your commitment to Muskogee. We are excited that you've joined our team, and we look forward to celebrating your success.